अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ओम नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। Generally, we take our own personality to be unquestionably true, and we get endlessly busy with the problems that this personality faces. We are very concerned with how to solve those problems, or preferably how to prevent those problems from arising at all, and so on. We never doubt this personality itself, the one who has the problems. Please see, there is a problem, and then there is someone who has the problem. Now, what is that someone? Who is that someone? The someone who has the problem is this personality, and this personality is in the Shastras described as made of 5 sheets. Maharshi Ramana in the 7th shloka asks us a question which is very unusual. He says, please say, Bhadantu, please tell me, what? Is there anybody who perceives this world without himself or herself being the body in the first place? One sees oneself as the body, and then one has heat, cold. One sees oneself as the body, then one has hunger, thirst. Have you ever experienced hunger when you are not this body at all? A very unusual question. But that is important if we have to understand self-inquiry. He continues that thread of logic in the verse 8. He says, let's read 8 alone. Shabdadi rupam bhuvanam samastam Shabdadi satte indriyavritti Indriyanam manaso vashesya Manomayam tad bhuvanam vadhamaha. This is one of the pieces of the teachings of Ramana Maharshi, where we see excellent, neat logic, crisp and to the point. What is this world, after all, which bothers us? What happens in the neighborhood bothers us sometimes. What happens far away in Africa or America bothers us sometimes. What happens in our own house? No electricity, or water is not coming, or what happened? Internet is not working, and so on and so forth. Near and far in this so-called world, there are issues which bother us. Of course, I should include people. Sometimes everything physical is okay, but there is a person who gets on our nerve, whose behavior, the way he treats us, the way she looks at us, disturbs us. That's also included in this. But Maharshi says, when you complain about things far and near, people far and near, all those things, places, or people constitute the world. That world, Bhuvanam means the world, is Shabda Adi Rupam. Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha. Something bothered you. It could be a sound, some noise, or somebody said something very disturbing. Or some other time, what troubled you was Rupa, some ugly form, ugly in your eyes, of course. Same way, Sparsha. You went somewhere, it is so hot, and you say, I can't stand this heat. That is Sparsha. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa. With great enthusiasm, you took something, one bite, like somebody put salt by mistake in tea instead of sugar, and one sip, you make a face. That is rasa. Gandha, same way, you get some foul smell, you can't stand it. Let's say these five stimuli, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, are absent. Can we think of any situation where there is something other than these five? The whole world is nothing but these five perceptions. Then Maharshi takes us holding our hand as though to the next level. Shabdadi Satta. Satta means existence. The existence of sound and smell, touch and form and taste is rooted in indriyas. There's a foul smell, but my nose has lost its ability to smell that. They say COVID has one of its symptoms, loss of smell. Or there is something ugly over there, but my eyes are unable to see. And so on. The message of yesterday, a frog was climbing a tall tree, and a lot of other frogs shouted at him, don't try to climb that tall tree. Halfway, if you slip, you will fall and break your head. The frog went on climbing and it went to the top. And then it was said, how did the frog go on and on? The joke is, the frog was deaf. This was the frog. So the frog didn't hear the shouting on the part of all the other frogs. And that message came in a certain different context. It said, like that frog, you should be deaf to people who pour cold water on your enthusiasm. You are inspired, you want to do something good. They will say, don't do that, be like us, and so on. Be deaf and go ahead, and so on. That apart, it connects well with this. If the frog had operational ears, it would have heard the criticism. So, ears make sounds possible. Indriya. Indriya vritti is the operation of indriyas. But imagine you have indriyas, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. But your mind is completely somewhere else. The mind is not with the indriyas. As it often happens to us, we are watching television, but our mind has gone away. Even if some big news appears on the screen at that time, we do not take cognizance of it. Some family members may say, Appa, did you hear this? I am the father. What happened? Appa, your eyes are open, you are watching. How come you missed it? And you say, no, I was thinking of some problem in the office. So even though the news reader read it very loudly, I missed it. Indriya vrittihi or indriyanam satta manasaha vashe syat. This is the logic part. Now there is the conclusion. He makes an astounding conclusion. Therefore, manomayam bhuvanam vadam. You think that this world literally, really, absolutely exists. Actually, the mind is the basis of your whole world perception. This whole world seems to exist, and we can first appreciate, really going by this logic, we can appreciate the truth that if the mind were not doing its job, we would not perceive the world. Even then we may say whether we perceive the world or not, the world is. The srishti is, whether we see it or not, we imagine. But Vedanta pushes us further to double check. Are you sure? Are you sure this universe is? And at some point in deep contemplation, through our sadhana, we will be able to see that the world is ayaram gayaram, they say. It comes and goes. We are eternally present. This shloka only says, Bhuvanam, the world, is manomayam. Long ago in the history of science, there was a scientist who first found what is called the laughing gas. You know the nitrous oxide. Thank you. Nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide was discovered, and the scientist who had discovered it, among many others also who might have discovered, was going from town to town, and he would stand on a stage with 200 people in the hall and release some laughing gas. And as the laughing gas spreads in the hall, people inhale that, they start laughing, and so on. They laugh because that makes you laugh. And he enjoyed it. But on one occasion, it is recorded, he also inhaled some, he too was laughing. Something happened to his consciousness, and he suddenly felt that the members of the audience and himself were all nothing but thoughts, bundles of thoughts. Suddenly he intensely felt that there are no multiple personalities. There are just thoughts and thoughts. That kind of discovery by a scientist goes so well with this conclusion. Manomayam. Manomayam tadbhuvanam vada. In a parallel context, someone like J. Krishnamurti has said something like this. Do you ever meet people at all? He says. And we answer, what do you mean? We meet people all the time. He says, that is not the point. When you meet a person, in no time, within a split second, you make an image of her or him. You make images. Within a moment, very appearance, because our mind is a very active mind. Out of memories of other people whom you had met, whom this gentleman resembles, this lady resembles, the mind says, he must be like them, comparison. And the problem gets more when you ask the name of somebody. Somebody says, I am Vinod Khanna. Khanna, Punjabi, I know Punjabis. What do you know? I know Sindhis. I know these ayers. I know this, and so on. So, there was a case in Florida. A girl went to school, first grade, and another girl who happened to be Muslim came running to this girl. I'm so glad you are in this class. I am Muslim, you are also Muslim. I'm glad, she said. This girl was not Muslim. This is nothing to speak in for or against Muslim Islam. But there is a point that comes out here. This girl said, I am not Muslim. That other girl in the class said, but your name says Khan. Khan. He said, no, my name is not Khan. But your name, see, your badge is written Khan. And then that girl was from West Indies, Trinidad or some one of those backgrounds, where Lakshman of India becomes Lakhan there, Ram Lakhan. So the girl said, I am not Khan, I am Sita Ram Lakhan. My father's name is Ram Lakhan. So that girl immediately withdrew. And I believe this really happened. The girl said, so are you one of those idol worshippers? First standard girl had already heard something from her parents that these Hindus from Indian origin, they worship idols and some kind of, it is a very bad idea and so on. She just withdrew. Oh, you are not Muslim? Are you an idol worshipper? And so on. Leave aside idol worship and all the debate about it. But see how that girl, seeing Khan, had one image. After discovering it is Ram Lakhan, another image. Are we much different from that? We too have images of people. So, J. Krishnamurti at some places said, you don't meet people. You meet the images you have of them. Nor do they meet you. They meet the image of us. When I first went to meet Eknath Ishwaran, we first sent an email or some communication. Eknath Ishwaran is now no more, a wonderful spiritual teacher. What they learned was Swami Chidananda wants to visit us. He is the head of Chinmaya Mission San Jose, and he is in orange robes. He must be extremely orthodox. So Eknath Ishwaran is a Malayali, but all his team were white people, white men and white women. First time I went in 96 or so, I went with some friends. All of them were dressed in sari, the women there. Men, of course, in pants. The women were in Indian sari. Because a Swamiji is coming. But in that visit, they came to know that I am not very formal. I am very flexible. I mix with people. I don't sit at a high stage. So second time I went, none of them was inside. Everybody knows Western dress and so on. So, moment they heard Swamiji is coming, an image. So we go by images.
There, that's a similarity. You always meet with the persona, not with the person.
Correct. You always meet the persona, not the person. So that connects well here. How do we don't meet the real world. We actually deal with the world of our imagination. Manomayam tadhuvanam vadamaha. And now, in 2 verses, Sri Ramana Maharshi takes us deeper and deeper to a better grasp of this whole approach of self-inquiry. In order that we conduct self-inquiry rightly, these are very necessary. Otherwise, many people say, I love who am I, and they sit and say, who am I, who am I? If they meet a blank wall, or who am I turns into a japa, just like you say Sri Ram, Jai Ram, or Hari Hi Om, who am I, who am I? Who am I is not supposed to be a japa. It is an exploration. It is an investigation. Who, after all, am I? What is my true nature? What, when I'm hurt, who is hurt? Am I really hurt? Or a certain imagination I have about myself, an image I have about myself is hurt. Is that hurt? So one has to examine. In order that you may go about this very exalted spiritual exercise called self-inquiry in a proper way, you must be clear of some of these basics. So 9 and 10 say, Dhiya sahodeti dhiyastameti lokastato dhi pravibhasya eshaha dhi loka janma kshaya dhama purnam Sadvastu janma kshaya shunyam ekam Bhavantu saddarshana sadhanani Parasya nama kritibhi saparyaha Sadvastu niprapta tadatma bhava Nishtaiva saddarshana mityavehi Each verse helps us grasp this whole science, this understanding better and better. Dhi means buddhi. Even in Gayatri Mantra, when you say Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat, Dhiyaha over there is plural, plural or singular. What it means is our buddhi, our intellect, our thoughts, our way of thinking. So our life, the life of you and me, human beings especially, is very much governed by thoughts. What we think, how we think of some situation, highly governs our joys and sorrows. So dhi is thinking. Maharshi says, dhiya saha. Along with thinking, when there is thinking, in other words, lokaha, this world also arises. Dhiya saha lokaha udeti, dhiya saha lokaha astam eti. Suryodaya, suryasta, we know. Sunrise and sunset. Like that, world rise and world set. Loka. Loka is whatever is seen, whatever is experienced. This loka doesn't rise independently. This loka that we perceive, about which we may be happy or sad, our joys and sorrows seem to follow our perception of the loka. This actually is not independent. It seems to depend on our buddhi or manaha, mind rising first. Or we don't even know what is first and what is last. Does the mind rise first and then we see there is a world here? Or does the world rise first and our mind captures it? Maharshi doesn't put anything first or last. Is the chicken first or the egg first? We don't know. Best expression is not chicken and egg, It is like two sides of the same coin. Like you pick up a coin, you don't pick up the heads first and then pick up the coin. What is that? Tails. Heads and tails, the two sides of a coin, come to your hand together. Therefore, there is the expression, the two sides of the same coin. Like that, the perceived world and the perceiver rise together. And if we go to deep sleep or so-called samadhi, or we faint, we become unconscious, or sometimes in moment of tremendous happiness, which could happen anywhere, including a music concert, you enjoyed the music, and they say, when you are enjoying a concert, though the music has played a role, the most intense happiness is when the players have for a moment stopped. Your mind also stopped. That mindlessness, there is no mind at all. And there is no sound also. There is intense happiness. Neither music that you hear, nor the mind which is deliberating. The mind is quiet. Like that, dhiya astameti, therefore, the world doesn't have an absolute existence. It is revealed in relation to the mind, and the mind also is revealed, becomes a part of our knowledge when it perceives the world. So the mind and the world rise together and subside together. And in the second part of the shloka, Maharshi says, really, if you were to inquire, if you were to take this matter seriously, that this world doesn't have an independent existence. My mind gives power to it, sense of reality to it. And the world also influences my mind. These two are hand in gloves. Is that what you say? Hand in gloves. They are co-conspirators. The mind and the world are together into a conspiracy where we suffer. How to get out of this conspiracy? How to avoid falling a prey? How to avoid getting victimized by this conspiracy? The second half of the shloka says, stay as the pure self. Neither get into the ways of the mind, nor get attached to the ways of the world. Dhi loka, see the third line. Dhi, the mind, loka, the world, and their janma, rise. Fourth word is their kshaya. So, dhi and loka are a dvandva samasa. Dhischa, lokascha. Then, dhi loka janma kshaya is a tatpurusha samasa. That is, janma and kshaya of dhi and loka. And that of comes. Suppose you say, I am going to my son's house tomorrow. Putra graha. That is tatpurusha samasa. Taputrasya graha. The house of the son. Suppose you say, my wife and I are visiting our son, are going to son's house. Patni cha aham cha, you put together, that is called dvandva samas. So, dhi and loka is a dvandva samas. They are on par. And these have their janma and kshaya. Dhi lokayoho janma, dhi lokayoho kshaya. And then, as the very basis for their rise and for their fall, there is a dhamma. Dhamma is the abode, the substrate, the basis. Dhiloka janma kshaya dhamma. So, janma and kshaya in grammar on another level connect with dhamma in tatpurusha. Dhilokayoho janma cha, dhilokayoho kshayascha. Dhiloka janma kshayayoho dhamma. It is the abode for the So let's not get too much into grammar. Dhiloka janma kshayadham purnam. The translation has taken care of giving the right meaning. There is a certain substrate on which these rise and fall, and that substrate is the key for you to escape from the misery of this worldly existence. It is Purnam, it doesn't have any shortcoming or limitation. It is what we call Sadvastu. This entire work is Saddarshanam. Dhiloka janma kshayadhama purnam tadeva sadvastu. And the wonder of wonders is that substrate has neither janma nor kshaya. Janma kshaya shunyam. Shunya is free of, devoid of. It is what makes possible all this to rise and fall. The perceiver and the perceived rise and fall. Does it also rise and fall? No. This Sadvastu has neither Janma nor Kshaya. Sadvastu Janma Kshaya Shunyam Ekam. Not that you have your Sadvastu, I have my Sadvastu. He has his Sadvastu. No. There is just one Sadvastu where plurality appears and vanishes. So how do we go about it then? So one of us may say, Maharshi, I agree with you. In order to receive, in order to grasp, in order to understand and anchor myself in this Sadvastu, I am doing lot of puja. Vishnu puja, Rama puja, Shiva puja. Maharshi says that is very good, but let me tell you, technically speaking, please don't stop your puja, please don't stop your anushtana, rather do more, God bless you. But technically speaking, Advaita Vedanta has its own rigorous, basic principles. Yes, parasya means of God. Nama akritibihi saparya. Saparya is a synonym of puja. Various forms of worship. Puja vidhanani. Whom do you worship? Para, God. And with praise of his name, praise of his akriti, Nama akriti. When we do puja at places, we chant his names. Om Vishwasmaya Namaha, Om Vishnave Namaha, and so on. 1000 names of Mahavishnu. Nama. And some other time, Akriti. Shantakaram, Bhujagashayanam, Padmanabham, Suresham, Shiva, Vishnu, Muruga, Devi. Sindhuraruna Vigraham, Vinayanam, Manikyamaulispuratu. Nayaka Shekaram, Smitamukhima, Pina Vakshoruha. That is Akara, Mother Devi's form we bear in mind. So, with attention to God's form and God's names and so on, we go about puja. Maharshi, with his broad-mindedness, says, they are indeed Saddarshana sadhana, they are helpful. They purify your mind. They help you withdraw your mind from this world which is at times giving you some pleasure and at other times giving you pain. But somehow we are entangled with this world. This puja, this anushtana definitely develops our inner strength. However, Bhavantu, let them be helpful. Bhavantu has a sense of they are good, let them be good, we don't disturb them. But the direct means, at the height of it all, as you have gained a high degree of purity of mind, what liberates you and what may be called the purest Saddarshanam, the purest glimpse of Sat is Sadvastuni Prapta Tadatma Bhava Nishta. The key word is Nishta. If you can remain very steadily in that Sadvastu with clarity, with clear understanding, Tad Ahameva Asmi, Tad Atma. That Sadvastu is me, I am the Sadvastu. Because there is only one. Advaita Vedanta is not to be misunderstood as the Advaita people going around and I am God and so on. On the contrary, it is to say God alone is. I vanish into God. I don't vanish into nothingness. That is perhaps some Buddhist view, and where there is no God too. But in Advaita Vedanta, God alone is. I have no separate existence. Therefore, Tadatma Bhava, Soham Bhava, not just thinking like that, Nishtha, when thanks to the inquiry, which initially is made possible by Anushtanas and so on, then certain subtle, very sukshma questions arise and you grapple with them, and then something happens. Your idea of your being separate just drops. Then in that quietude, in that quiet appreciation of some lofty spiritual principle, you feel your oneness. That is Saddarshana. As long as there is a duality, it is good that you are trying to climb. When that duality vanishes, that is like quantum leap. In physics, they have an expression. One moment you are here, next moment you are there. In physics, they use the word for a particle like an electron. At one moment, it's at a certain energy level, and another moment, it's at another energy level, and physics has all theoretical and practical proof that it did not pass through intermediate energy levels. That's why it's called quantum leap. You go from Hosur to Hyderabad, and not by land, not by air, not by sea or any other water body you traveled. One moment you are in Hosur, another moment you are in Hyderabad. How? But that is one of the mysteries of so-called quantum physics. So that energy gap is in terms of quanta, certain, not linear, not continuous. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, no. It's packets. So, in an analogous manner, this is not physics, but like an analogy, here too, that snap takes place. When a snap takes place, one moment you are feeling separate, next moment you feel one with God. That is Saddarshana, he says. And more verses do just this. They throw more light, they open up the matter, and then you see the whole logic of it, the whole details of the sadhana in greater detail. Every subject is like that. You and I study any subject. When we engage with the subject, when we solve problems, when we study, when we discuss, when we give a thought to it, the whole matter becomes so much more clear, whether it's sciences or arts or anything. 4 days back, I visited an art exhibition in a place near Whitefield. And the young artist had made some paintings. So I asked, what is this? Why do you call it acrylic? She said, this is acrylic. Oil paintings are different. She explained how you make an oil painting. It takes more time to dry and all that. Acrylic is a little easier. And to bring a certain three-dimensional effect in her art, this artist, Rashmi Hande, had used clay. So there is a scene of a lake and a tree and a little Buddha meditating. That is made into a three-dimensional Buddha out of clay, which is an inch of, closer to you as you are watching. And even some branches of the tree are made three-dimensional. So she said, I used clay for this, and so on. So by just visiting that art exhibition, I learned a few new things. Now she must have labored, she must have put in lots of hours, weeks, years into that. For many years she has been an artist. Now, if some artist comes and talks to her about acrylic painting, oil painting, three-dimensional painting, and some, she will grasp it so quickly because she has done, in Sanskrit there is a word for it, Vyavasaya. Vyavasaya otherwise is agriculture, Krishi in Kannada at least. But in Sanskrit, Vyavasaya means exertion. Krita Vyavasaya means someone who has put in hours, put in a lot of time. So what applies to painting or science or arts or economics applies to the spiritual science. As we exercise our mind, we should not say, I'm done with the Shastras. I have read enough, heard enough. And any Swami, anybody who comes, and they'll tell the same thing. I know what they want to say. Some people take such a casual approach. Partly we do admit, much of what we say is the same. Some other Swamiji also had said. Or it is all in books. Nowadays it is in Google. So if someone says, I don't want to attend any more lectures, if I have a doubt, I will go to Google. One may say, partly true. It is said in, today you have wonderful lectures on YouTube, wonderful, maybe three-dimensional and so many, animation, etc. is available. There are endless stuff on the internet. But that casual approach is not good. You say, I'm not going to this satsang, I will look up on the internet. Then you don't look up the internet also. You say, I'm not going to this machine. Machine say, what do I learn from the machine? And so on. And then what about dinner tonight? We will have it 15 minutes earlier tonight. We all become Sapatramans. When it is Sapatra, there is no compromise. But when it is Shastra, Satsanga, the mind tends to say, I don't need any more. I believe in... People like me often meet fellows everywhere. They have no patience for any deliberation, thinking, etc. They just say, tell us meditation, how to meditate. We want to meditate and just get liberated. Yella and Atma, Anatma, Panchakosha, all that you keep with yourself. To us, just to tell one step, close your eyes and boom, that doesn't happen. So even Maharshi Ramana, who of course warned everybody not to get caught in scriptures, not to get caught in the jungle of Shastra, did advise. Do study the Shastra, do get the basics. Therefore, he translated Viveka Chodamani, Atma Bodha from some other works and so on. So, it's a very balanced approach. And Sri Ramakrishna also apparently was against Shastras, apparently, not really. But he encouraged Vivekananda to study the Vedanta in great detail so that Vivekananda could go and help people. Sri Ramakrishna personally did not get much into the scriptures. They had such backgrounds in previous lives or their avatar Purushas, God incarnate. They don't need. If you and I decide, we will give away all our books on Saturday, Sunday, dispose of all your Gita, Upanishad, Ved, Chudamani, and house looks very clean now. So what will you do? Let us get some toys. What is that? Coca-Cola? On Navratri, you there? Kolu. Bombay, we say. Kolu. So your house will become 365 days Kolu show. All Gita, spiritual books, disposed of. No. We should not do that. So let's see. 11 and 12 take us towards greater clarity. Dvandvani sarvanyakhilas triputyaha kinchit samashritya vibhanti vastu तन्मार्गणे स्यात् गलितं समस्तं न पश्यतां सच्चलनं कदापि विद्या कथं भाति न चेदविद्या विद्यां विना किं प्रविभात्य विद्या द्वयं च कस्येति विचार्य मूल स्वरूपनिष्ठा परमार्थ विद्या. On the sidelines, all the 44 verses of Saptarshanam are in a meter called Upajati. Upajati Chandas has 11 syllables in each quarter, and it is a little longer than Anushtup. Anushtup has 8 syllables. In Bhagavad Gita, something like 600 verses out of the 700 are Anushtup, 8. Dharma, Kshetre, Guru, Kshetre, 8. Sama, Veta, Yutsavaha, 8. And go to the last verse. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, 8. Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, 8. Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutihi, 8. Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama, 8. So 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Most of the shlokas. But then there are some shlokas, especially in that Vishwarupa Darshana. There are so many shlokas which are in, they are 11, they are not Upajati, but they are Trishtup, it is called. So, longer. This also has 11 syllables, and this is Upajati. Some of you may know a beautiful composition in praise of Bala Mukunda, little Krishna. That is also with the same meter. Karara Vindena Padara Vindam Mukhara Vinde Viniveshayantam Vatasya Patrasya Pute Shayanam Balam Mukundam Manasasmarami. 8 shlokas. Bala Mukunda Ashtakam. Meter is same. Once you know that meter and this meter is a matter of the structure. They are the same. You may apply this tune over there and that tune over here. It will go. For example, I can sing this. Gandvani sarvani khilasti putyaha kinchit samasritya vibhanti vastu tanmargane syad dalitam samajtam balam mukundam manasasmara. Because the meter is same. And what is more, without going much into, that's called prosody, Chandas Shastra. I know a little bits and pieces. Those I have not studied in great detail. In poetry, typically, liberty is taken with respect to the sequence of the words. That is very evident in this shloka. For example, in the second line, Kinchit Samashritya Vibhanti Vastu. The right prose order for that is Kinchit Vastu Samashritya Vibhanti. Or in the 4th line, which I am very fond of quoting in so many other lectures, Napashyatam Satchalanam Kadapi. The right prose order is Sat Pashyatam. Napashyatam Sat comes later, but Sat Pashyatam, for those who are beholding that supreme truth, Kadapi Chalanam Na Bhavati. They see that there is unwavering. Chalanam is moving, changing, wavering, oscillating. For Sat Pashyatam, if you have Sat Darshan, Pashyat is Darshana. Those who see Sat find neither outside nor inside there is any wavering. Sat Pashyatam Jananam Sadhakanam, Sat Pashyatam Siddhanam, Muninam, Rishinam, whatever you say. Sat Pashyatam, to those people who see the Sat, There is no movement, there is no change, no rise or fall, no birth or death, no rise or decay. Whereas in egoistic life, someday we feel today has been so good. I made a lot of money or something. Another day, who will listen to my tale of tears? Oh man, I want some shoulder now to put my head and cry. Please, that is chalanam. Satpashyatam na chalanam kadapi. So that is poetry. What is the message of this shloka? Dvandvani. Dvandva. Swami Akhandanandaji of Vrindavan, he jokes in his books. Dvau means two. Ekaha, dvau, trayaha, chatvaraha, that is pullinga. Otherwise, eka and dve, tisraha, that's feminine. Up to number 4 in Sanskrit, you have different words depending on the gender. Thank God. 5 onwards, whether it is 5 boys or 5 girls or 5 apples, it is pancha only. Pancha purushaha, pancha striyaha, and pancha falani. But up to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you have ekaha for masculine, dve for feminine, sorry, dvau. Why am I going to do? Ekaha for masculine, eka for feminine, ekam for neuter. When you come to 2, dvau for masculine, dve for feminine, and dve for neuter. One more. When you come to 3, if it is 3 boys, trayaha, balaha. If it is 3 girls, tisraha, balika. And when it is 3 fruits, which is neuter, Trini, falani. So, Akhandanandaji said, taking the masculine scenario, do, everywhere 2. Day and night, heat and cold, praise and insult, rise and fall, promotion and demotion, sukha and dukkha, right? They are all those. But wait, how did Dvandva come? This is humor only, not according to straight grammar. He says, if you have caught cold and your voice becomes nasal, when you say dvav, dvav, you say dvav, 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 your voice becomes nasal. That is how the word Dvandva came, he says in one of his books. One of his lectures, which was made into a book. Anyway, Dvandva is normally translated as pairs of opposites. Pairs of opposites. Joy follows sorrow, pleasure follows pain in our life, like night follows day. Can't help. Every one of us goes through pleasure and pain, Dvandva. So there are numerous pairs of opposites in life, in this world, in this creation. Then there are numerous triputis. Triputi is triad, T-R-I-A-D, triads. The knower, the known and knowing, the seer, the seen and seeing, the one who eats that which is eaten, and the act of their coming together, eating. You may be sitting before television, you are the drashta, and television is the drishya or drashta. But if your mind is somewhere else, the coming together is not there. So they add a third factor, darshanam. Aham drashta pashyami. Television, Duradarshanam is drishtam, drishyate. And if I am attentive, I am actually involved. Darshana is taking place. Duradarshana se darshanam. So triputi, bhokta, bhojya and bhojana. Everywhere you may add. These are triputi. The world is full of triads. Dvandvani sarvani, akhilaha triputyaha, Maharshi Ramana. Thanks to great vairagya he had right in childhood, was able to switch from these pairs of opposites and triads of things to their basis. We, even if we have studied a lot of Ramana literature and are deeply touched, have vasanas. We don't have enough vairagya. more than deficiency of calcium or deficiency of what else? Some other, any other example? B12, various vitamins. Yeah, in pathology reports you have this deficiency, that deficiency. The pathology reports. In spirituality, one of the terrible deficiencies is of Vairagya. Great scholars who have written voluminous books on Upanishad, etc., don't have enough Vairagya. Therefore, when their books don't sell enough, or when some authorities, government or private, honor another scholar and not this scholar, they have heartburn. I wrote so much on, and this fellow read my book and gave a lecture, and he is given some. Padma Shri he got. I don't know. So, etc. This is called lack of vairagya. I am so delighted to hear about Pujya Swami Viradeshwaranandaji, who had that great vairagya. He was not concerned with how many people come to the ashram. Whereas when somebody has less vairagya, well, if I build an ashram, will people come? And so on. That's vairagyasya bhava. Why did I mention vairagya? To go from dvandva and triputi to their substrate and be there, the great requirement is vairagya. I'm not interested in pursuing this triputi. I'm not interested in pursuing this dvandva. It's like you go to a mall and you get very excited, very interested. Then that is raga. If it is vairagya, you needed a particular object, you go to a mall and find out where it is available, you pick it up. Then with that in your hand, you walk out doing Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. I got what I wanted. You don't say anything new has come here in children's dresses, anything new has come here in toys, anything. A lot of us do what is called window shopping. We may not buy anything, but we just see. And so on, alas. So these triputi and dvandvas are like their shopping mall. One should not take too much interest in it. Whatever is required for our duty. The Gita says, don't run away from duty. Karma jayo hi akarmana. So, the second part of the shloka takes us to Tan margane. If you inquire, rather than getting stuck, getting attached to them. Getting attached is one problem, and developing some dvesha is another problem. They are also two sides of the same coin. If you get attached to something, you necessarily will dislike something else. So neither attached nor disliking. You are inquiring. Inquiring means a vertical movement. You go into where are they coming from? What is their source? That is margana. Margana means search. Margana is a synonym for anveshana, searching. You search for the source. Then samastam galitam syat. Everything drops away. Galati means drops, falls, flows away. Everything means these pairs of opposites, the triads, all of them vanish. They will gather strength if you take interest in them. If you don't take interest in them, they themselves die a natural death. If there is a wild plant and you ensure no water is put into it, that plant dies on its own. Therefore, there is the expression, die a natural death. You don't have to take an axe and cut that plant or tree. See that no water reaches. Don't water the wild growth, they will die. Likewise, this samsara, this world where we seem to be caught, dies a natural death. And that is called samastam galitam na pashyatam sat chalanam kadapi. Those who have thus arrived at the vision of Sat, which is the substrate, enjoy such steadiness, such such security, such nirbhayatva, such peace, such calm, that na chalanam, they do not slip, they do not move, they do not fall off from there. Therefore, it is called nitaram sthanam nishtha. Nischayena sthanam. Ni is a upasarga preposition. Sthan is to stay. Now, Maharshi also said in the 12th, when we are caught in our intellect, we regard something as vidya, something as avidya. These are what I know. That is what I don't know. I know is vidya, I don't know is avidya. These are relative to each other. Where would vidya be if there is no avidya? And where would avidya be, second line, if there were no vidya? Vidyam vina avidya kim pravibhati? Avidyam vina or avidya na chet. Na chet is if. If avidya were not to be there, how would there be vidya? Therefore, wise people with true vairagya, which is born of viveka, inquiring, examining, not to be carried away by temporary benefits, but to see things in the long range, to know that everything changes. Everything is vikari. Vikari means undergoes vikara. Vardate, kshiyate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, nashyati at the end of it. That is vichara. You think with sincerity, not just remembering some shloka, some shastra bhaga, we can remember, and many of us do that in our scholarly mood. We remember, something said in Gita or some, like Bhartrahari, Vairagya, and so on. We remember. Pitva pramada madiram unmatta bhutam jagat reported. So scholars, preachers, speakers, etc., they pat themselves on the back if they can remember a shloka, a line very clearly. But that is not enough. That's not the end of the story. What matters is not remembering a line from any of the Brahma Sutra or anything, all of which have a place. What matters is, can you be free of that moha? Hitva mohamayim pramada madiram unmatta bhutam jagat. So, have you saved yourself from drinking the wine of error, pramada madira, which is soaked in moha, various delusions? What is worth 10 rupees, because of your confusion, looks so attractive. You say, I want it, as though it is 10,000 rupees worth. That is moha. And some other thing is actually very precious. You say, we'll see later. I'm not interested. This is moha. So, not words, not shlokas, not lines, not mantras, but what is conveyed by them should be part of our understanding. Therefore, going on a deeper level, dvayam kasya, who perceives this vidya and avidya? Who feels proud, saying, I have understood? Who feels depressed, saying, I don't know, I am an ignoramus. All of them know so much. I think I will need 3 more lives, etc. A sense of I am nowhere. Both are play of the mind. Maharshi Ramana Bhagavan said to some villagers who are a little, embarrassed looking at some Vedic scholars discussing something with Maharshi. The villagers came to have darshan of Maharshi, but looking at all these Vedic scholars who half the time were speaking in Tamil, whatever, Sanskrit maybe, half in Tamil or whatever, they said, all these people are way ahead, we are nowhere. Then Maharshi says to them, if you look at that thought, I don't know anything, and just ask, Where from is this thought arising? And hold the source. That is enough. Why are you concerned with all that? That is their prarabdha. These priests and those scholars, Maharshi used that word prarabdha when someone asked him, is it necessary to give pravachans in the matter of spirituality? He just said that some people give pravachans if it is their prarabdha. He did not attach value to it, nor did he look down at them, but it is not essential. To give pravachans is not the essential ingredient of spiritual excellence. If somebody gives excellent pravachans, it is a form of service. All of us serve the society in various ways. Somebody runs a restaurant and high quality, good food at very reasonable price he gives. It's also seva. So all this. Pravachan is not essential. Thus, dvayam cha kasyeti vicharya moola swarupa nishtha. Stay in your true nature, which neither belongs to the camp of I know, nor belongs to the camp of I don't know anything. Vidya and avidya are two formations in the intellect. It makes no difference. Vidya and avidya make no difference to your ever self-effulgent nature. Nahi drashtur drashtehe viparilopo vidyate. I quoted in the earlier class. Gadharanyaka says, no matter what, the jyoti that you are shines in all its glory with no break at all. But we were puzzled because we are caught in some confusion. Let go of confusion. Let go of erroneous seeing. Na iti, negate that false position you took. There was something worth 10 rupees and you took a false position. I want that. Because it is worth 10,000 rupees. Somebody then says, it is not worth 10,000 rupees. It is 10 rupees worth and you should not worry about it. And you do vichara really, you mean it, you look and then you find out, oh, it's not all that worth, I mistook it. Drop it. Likewise, our attachment to the body, our attachment to our image in the society, our attachment to what people think of us, our attachment to all this. Somebody went to Himalayas and there was a phase in his sadhana, he felt ashamed about it, but it happened. During a certain phase of his sadhana there, every day he was bothered by the thought. It is 7 years since I have come to Himalayas. What do people in my village think of me? Do they think I am an escapist? Or do they think I am a genuine spiritual seeker? I hope they don't misunderstand. At least my wife and children should have hold me in good regard. Part of his mind said, why am I bothered? And he had read well. He had studied well. So his mind said, this is a disturbance. I have come here and whether my wife and children think of, children may say, our appa ran away. And he is an escapist. He could not face challenges of life. And definitely in Himalayas, he is miserable. Suppose children think of me like that. Why should I worry? He knew that he should not worry, but he was worrying. So he felt very embarrassed and then he prayed, God, free me from this thought. That is how lust and greed, anger and jealousy, etc. trouble us at times. We know that we should not be having those vikaras, but the vikaras come with great force. So Maharshi says, Swarupa Nishna, have compassion towards yourself, to this happens to all. Accept yourself as you are. It is one thing to have anger, another thing to be ashamed of it, as you are adding a problem. to be guilty about your anger, to be ashamed of your anger, and to blame yourself, condemn yourself, and say that, oh my God, I am already 71 years old and still I have not overcome anger. Oh, I'm so much energy is gone. Instead, make friends with that anger. Yes, this morning again I got angry. And watch, look at how your mind plays. Do not add to the problem. Swarupa Nishtha is facilitated, especially as you get more mature. You don't fight with Kama Krodha. You hold Kama Krodha lightly in your consciousness. You stay aware. Yeah? Even now there is Kama. Even now there is Krodha. Interesting. In this way, you hold the problems lightly in your consciousness. Holding it lightly, meaning without getting hurt by it. Then you will move towards Swarupa. In initial stages, you have to fight because they are so wild. But advanced stages, you make friends. We will conclude the lecture proper. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.